Hi, we're Taku and Jocelyn, and it has been basically a year at the homestead, and we are so excited to show you guys everything that we have accomplished in the year that we've been here. A little bit about us, if you didn't know, is we used to live in a van. We built it out, and when we initially built it out, we swore we would never live full-time in a van. It was just supposed to be a part-time adventure. We used to do camping on motorcycles, and we also camped from our car, and we did a lot of content filming for the main channel, Outdoor Chef Life. And to be honest, it was getting a bit of a pain to be constantly packing and unpacking, getting pretty tiring to live in a tent, because we weren't just doing little weekend trips in the tent. We would be spending a whole month in a tent. So that was one of the biggest motivators to building out a van, is so that we could be comfortable while traveling. And then our visa to live in New Zealand got approved, and we lived there for a year, also out of a van, a different van, not the Sprinter. And since we were going to be living in New Zealand for a whole year, we realized it just wasn't worth the rent. And then when that year in New Zealand was up, we came back to the US. We did a little bit of traveling. We lived out of our van full time, and I think we were coming up on 2 years of not having a home when we realized we were gonna have to make a decision. Did we wanna sell our stuff in storage? Because right now we had kept everything, because the plan was we would only be gone for a year, come back and get a place. And then we realized why, like we could live out of our van. So that was a debate that we were having. Should we rent another place? Should we sell our stuff? Like, what are we gonna do? By chance, we just found this place and decided, let's check it out. Welcome to the garden. It is one of my favorite spaces and one of the spaces we have worked really hard on. So that's what I'm going to start with. One thing that I really wish is that we had taken a lot more before videos, especially this space. When we first got here, this whole thing was just a massive bush. Like, you couldn't see this view at all. The lemon tree, it's grown a lot actually. We pruned it a ton because it was completely overgrown. It actually broke this covering that was here and pushed them off. It was like a bunch of weeds and bushes and stuff, and I was trying to clear up the leaves when I discovered one of these rock paths, and I started clearing it out, pulling some weeds, and then that's when I realized that there was a whole little path that went back there. And there used to be no planter bed here. It was just the bush that I was talking about. So I ended up just clearing all of that out. And then we do still have that planter bed that's like not in the best quality that we're gonna get rid of pretty soon. And the rest of this, you know, it didn't exist. He didn't exist. Well, okay, he existed, but we didn't have him yet. This was all weeds when we moved in. And yeah, we had to clear up so much. This was basically a bunch of weeds and empty space. And we put in all these planters here, and now we're like loaded with tomatoes. The figs survived the few years that nobody lived here, and now they seem to be doing really good. This bed we have not replaced, but eventually we're going to move this fence a little bit out there, so it's with these two greenhouses here, because right now I also can't get into this greenhouse that easily. And then if you guys remember, this used to just be a massive blackberry bush, like huge. It was all the way to about right here. And then there was also that garden bed. And if you remember, that garden bed was rotten and falling apart. So that's why we kind of took it apart. We wanted to do a quick fix for the greenhouse just to make it usable. And then while doing that quick fix, we discovered that the support beams of this greenhouse were actually rotting. So that little project became a little bit of a bigger project. And now we just have all these tomatoes here, all these planters here. We cleared all the blackberry bushes by using Diggy Smalls to pull out a lot of the roots. And for the most part, it mostly stayed clear, but you can kind of see that there are some blackberry bushes that are trying to come back, and I will clear them out again. Cleared up the greenhouse. It used to be full of just dead weeds and so many spider webs and wasp nests, just endless amounts of wasps nests. We spent a lot of time trying to clear them out. We would wait till it was the evening when they were sleeping and then just kill them. Yeah, now we have this nice greenhouse going on. After we cleared it up and threw away a lot of the garbage also. There was like all this rotting furniture that was in here that we had to get rid of. We've been trying to thin our forest so that we can be wildfire safe, and that's something we're still working on. It takes a really long time to clean up a forest. Like, you think it's hard gardening, it's so much harder to clean up an entire forest that is all hillside, so we can't really use too many machinery that we have. Diggy Smalls would probably come in handy pulling out some bushes and stuff, but yeah, that's another project that we have slowly been working on, clearing little sections by little sections, and there is still so much more to do. We are trying to do it ourselves because it is super expensive to hire someone. I think our neighbor had told us that for maintenance it's like 5 or 7 grand. Like, I can't even imagine how much it would be to do our forest because no one has lived here, and I'm not sure if the previous owners even kept up with any maintenance. Our forest, most of it is just a huge solid wall of trees and bushes, and it is a huge fire issue, so that's something we are continuously working on. I think this also counts as a project, but we did create a little mushroom forest on our land. We inoculated a bunch of logs, and we're hoping either next year or in 2 years from now, we're going to have a bunch of mushrooms popping up in the forest if we did everything correctly. We have also put some of these mushrooms in the garden, and they have really taken off. So that's been pretty successful. Really looking forward to the forest one because we both like foraging for mushrooms, and this is going to be so much easier to forage for. And then we have our little hillside terrace for the fruit trees. We basically just flattened out a little spot so that we could put these trees here, fenced in so the deer can't get in. And surprisingly, this has worked pretty well to keep the deer out. It's not a very tall fence, but I think because of the hillside and because there's all this stuff in there, it probably just doesn't give them a clear landing. And even if they make it past this, these plants still have a fence around them. And then coming back to this side, this is the new greenhouse that we built from scratch. So one of the most frequently asked questions about the greenhouse that we built is, why did we build it so small? Why didn't we connect the 2 greenhouses? If you guys remember, one of the first videos we did was the greenhouse, fixing it up, and it's not in the best shape. It is in a usable shape, but not in great shape. So this thing's probably going to need to be replaced or fixed up in a few years. So that's one of the reasons we didn't want to connect it. And 2, we live in California. We really don't need a greenhouse that is almost 60 feet long. That's kind of absurd. Here in this part of California, I can grow all year long. I mean, I can't grow tomatoes in winter, but I can still grow beets and carrots and cabbage, you know, all that cool weather crops. So I don't really need a massive greenhouse to grow in the summer. And the other reason I wanted a small greenhouse is because it is connected to my she shed, ceramics room, whatever you want to call it. And I am planning to have it kind of heated in the winter. So my thought process is, if the she shed is warm, it will hopefully pass on a little bit of heat to that greenhouse that is attached to it. And we don't really have very cold winters, but it would be great for starting the summer seeds in there for the greenhouse to just be a little tiny bit warmer. Yeah, that's the reason why this one is a small greenhouse, and it fits everything that I need. Which brings me, of course, to the she shed itself. It is still a work in progress. Oh, also, we found a rattlesnake. We were just walking past and I saw it right under the barn, essentially, just hanging out. I don't know how well you guys can see that, and I don't want to get too close. He's... It was a bit of a surprise find. I know this is technically one of their natural habitats, but it is so rare to see them here. So far, all we've really done is get some of the insulation out and install the window, and also bring in a pipe for water in here. And I think we are going to be doing solar in here next. And eventually maybe make these barn doors glass doors if we can find some cheap used ones, because they're pretty expensive to buy a glass sliding door this size. We'll be working on that, I think, next week again. We've just wanted to take a little break from projects because it has been nonstop projects, some traveling. We had Taco's family here. It's just been very chaotic, and we just want like a nice calm week. And next we have the garage, which was actually Taco's project, so I'll let him take over.
The very first thing I did when we moved in was put a new floor on this garage. I put this epoxy flooring. Before that, it was covered in rat poop. It was like caked on there. I had to use a shovel to scrape them off. There's a bunch of garbage in here that was left from the previous owners. And so I removed everything, and I just washed everything, pressure washed it, and I did some etching, concrete etching. That's to prepare the concrete for the actual epoxy. And then I just bought some epoxy stuff from Home Depot just for garage purposes. And now you can see this nice epoxy floor. It's a bit of a mess in here because I'm currently doing a project right now, which is this one, 8-foot long workbench. Just made this yesterday, and I also made this workbench for my fishing stuff, which is all cluttered at the moment, but it's got the pegboard on the back and reels and lures and things hanging on it. It's pretty cool. So I need to organize all the fishing rods and stuff. I'm gonna make like a wall right here so I can hang the rods, or like place the rods there instead of leaning them all on the wall there. And I can probably, organize a little bit more right there. And then the new workbench is gonna go in this space right here under all these tools. So that's this long one's gonna be more like the tool workbench stuff. Got some organization things in here. Got like that big rack from Costco. That rack in the back, that was actually in the greenhouse, and I just moved that over, put some new shelves on there, and then now I'm using that in here. And I put, organizing back here, some hooks and things. Very useful to utilize all these heavy duty hooks to hang all the tools for, just a general garden care or property care. And it's like weed whackers and chainsaws and power washer, leaf blower, things of that nature. And so that's pretty much it in here. Oh yeah, one more thing. All these posts where they are, these all had holes to the outside, so rats can come in and out of there. So filled out with gravel. And there's some more on the corner over there you can't see, but there's a couple more over there and then more over there. You can't see any of it right now, but there were holes just leading to the outside. It was open. I don't know what the purpose of that was, so I filled it in with gravel. Here, fill that all in. Right there, filled that all in as well, so you can't get rats going in and out of there.
And while we're over here, let's talk about the well, or, well, the lack of well. We tried to dig 2 wells. Both came out dry. And the first time we were digging based off of what a land surveyor, or I forgot he's like a geologist who basically scans the ground and tells you how much water there is. And it has about an 80% accuracy. So when we were submitting an offer for this place, we basically told them that if we were going to make the offer, we wanted to have him come here first and tell us what the chances were of water before we, closed on the house. I'm not really a gambling kind of person, but 80% accuracy, like, that's pretty good. And it seemed more like the 80% accuracy was more the amount of water, not so much if there is or is not water. So I figured he said that there was a really good spot for water down the hill. And I figured even if he is 80% off, there's still something, like, if it's not as good as he says, like, at least we have like a crappy producing well, like, it'll be fine. And so that was our thought process is, even if it doesn't produce as well as he says, there's water. Unfortunately, if you watch that video, there was no water. And we let him know about that too, because we kept in contact, and he was really bummed for us, but also like he couldn't understand why it happened. He said in all the times he's done these scans, he's never had something come back like that. So we still don't know what happened. His best educated guess is there was some weird kind of formation down there that sent false readings. We don't really know. He doesn't really know. Like, there's not really a way to find out why. And then a lot of people on YouTube and Instagram really recommended water witchers. Like, there was a shocking amount of people saying like they don't believe in this, but a water witcher found them water. And I didn't really see the point, to be honest. Like, I don't really believe in that, and there was no scientific study proving their accuracy. But Taku was like, well, everyone swears like it works, so we tried it out. We dug the second one here, which is where our horizontal well is, and there was no water. So that was a big bummer. If you're wondering about the horizontal well, it basically, instead of going down, goes well horizontally. It's not the best source of water. You can kind of hear the occasional drip, and it takes about, in the summer, I don't know, 2 or 3 weeks to fill that tank. In the winter, it fills up much faster, obviously, because there's rain going through the mountain and through this. So, I mean, it's a little bit of water, but realistically, it is not enough water. Currently living off of our rainwater collection, and we have a pretty good amount of that. I think it's enough for the two of us and the garden when it rains, like if we have a good rainy season. I don't know what's going to happen when there's a drought. I guess we would just have to truck in water. So far, we still have water, and Taku's had people over every week. So, I mean, we are getting pretty low, and I think if we're really careful right now, we might be able to last till the first rain. Fingers crossed. We also have the van. We have the option to pack up in the van and just go somewhere and take a little vacation until there's water again. I mean, we'd definitely have to leave before we hit 0 water because the garden will need water to survive. This is the garden wash station, and usually there's a bucket down there to collect the water, and I use that to water the lemons or the fig tree. Basically reused something that we had, added some legs to it. This is one of the things that just got left behind that we had kind of considered tossing, but we found a new use for it. And once we wash everything, get rid of the dirt, collect all that water in the bucket that's usually down there so nothing goes to waste, it can just dry right here. That's really come in handy for the garden, especially for root vegetables like beets and carrots and stuff. But also it's great for greens when I realize there's some aphids. It's easy to spray them off. Sometimes you're using a lot of water. And as you know, we do not have the luxury of wasting water. So everything gets reused. Taco even collects the rice water and uses that in the garden, which is really good for your soil. And then we have this. And this is really the only thing we've done inside of the house. It had a huge shelf basically here, and then just like a cabinet that went deep inside. And I just figured that this would be a better use for the space, is making a little bar. And we got the wine fridge here. We got a drawer with coasters and little mushrooms to put on top of your drink so you know which one's which. The top shelf is just a bunch of glasses. The bottom shelf is a bunch of the alcohol. The storage space before was just not optimized in the best way it could be, and it honestly didn't look that great. It was just like a massive shelf that like you can't really put anything in a shelf that deep, and it's kind of like a dark little hidden corner, so it's not like you can put decor. I was pretty happy with this. We love it. It's really cute. It adds to the ambience for the house. Actually, I think this technically counts as one of our projects. All I did was sand it and paint it because it used to be in kind of rough shape, but now it's pretty cute. And oh my gosh, we almost forgot about the little kiln space, guys. This is one of the things that I'm also super excited for. Well, okay, I think I'm just excited for everything at the homestead, to be honest. We built out this cover here to protect it from any kind of rain. We installed electrical. We put this cement pad and a little path that goes all the way over there. It's not as conveniently close to the ceramics room. I know you guys are going to be wondering, why did we put it all the way over here? And the reason is because, so this is the guest house here, and it is plugged into an outlet right here. So when Taku saw this, he thought, oh, we can power it with the same exact kiln plug. As you can see here, it's a pretty big plug. And he just gave it a quick glance and thought it would fit, but no, this is actually a different plug than this one. So I didn't look at it and he didn't double check to make sure. So that's why we ended up building all of this here after we put the cement pad and brought the kiln over and we were going to plug it in. We realized, oh no, it's not the right plug. But at that point, honestly, it just seems like the best place to put this, because if we put it next to the future ceramics room, honestly, it's just going to end up taking valuable garden space. And while we do have a lot of land, it is all hillside like this. So at the moment, our garden's actually not that huge. So this ended up working out anyways, and we ended up building this. Even though Taku did electrical on the van, and we did actually research how to do electrical work for the kiln, and it made a lot of sense, we were still pretty intimidated by how much power this thing draws. And we just kind of were thinking that like there's no room for mistakes on this. We ended up finding an electrician through a neighbor, and he came out and did it for us, which I'm so glad he did, because there's a couple things that he did to make this work that we would not have known to do on our own. So pretty happy we hired someone to do the electrical. And we have been doing a little bit of pottery, and it has been great. Taku also pointed out to me that I almost forgot to show you guys his basketball hoop that he installed. He had to put some cement in. One thing you learn living out in the middle of nowhere is you really have to be able to provide your own entertainment, because there's not much to do here. Hence the basketball hoop and the kiln. It's not really things we can just walk into town to go do, because we are pretty far from a town with a kiln and not that close to a basketball hoop, to be honest. Okay, no, actually this is the best change we made to the homestead. We adopted this sweet baby boy right here. Hi, buddy. He looks so cute. This is Roscoe. We did not have a dog before because we traveled a lot. And once we got the homestead, we were trying to just foster, but, well, this guy's a sweet cutie face. So we failed and we kept him. And now he guards the house. For some of the projects that we want to work on in the future, one thing that would be awesome to get done this year, but I don't know if we'll have the time or how we'll even start this project. I want to enclose this whole area and kind of turn it into a sunroom and kind of have maybe a little tiny fireplace, and it would become our kind of dining hangout space, because our house is pretty small. We don't have a dining room, and in the summer it's pretty easy for us to eat outside with friends and family that come to visit. In the winter it kind of sucks because it does get pretty cold. It rains. It's mostly covered. The top does have a covering which is green, and we want to replace that with clear paneling, just so we don't get this kind of weird green lighting on us. That's one of the projects we would love to work on, hopefully this year, so we have a space for the winter. We still kind of have to look into how to do that. And this space doesn't have to be like 100% sealed, just sealed enough that we're kind of protected from the elements, and just so that it holds, you know, a tiny little bit of heat if we do have that little fireplace or wood fire stove in that area. So that's kind of the plan, that we had to just figure it out. And then we had to figure out too, like if we want a fireplace there, something kind of resistant to temperature changes. And I mean, we definitely have to look into like specific paneling for having a fireplace. And the other thing we want to do is terrace out the hillside that's right behind me. And that's one of the reasons why I haven't replaced this garden bed all the way in the back. Look kind of close up, you can see the wood is rotting. The panels have fallen off on that side. So the plan is have one of the entrances to the hillside terrace this way. And we would essentially put the gates here and then be able to go down there. That's another project we would love to get done this winter, because if we can terrace out that hillside, it'll give us more space for the garden, but also because we want to get like a sauna and maybe a cold plunge, maybe a hot tub. I know the water situation isn't the best, but it could just be a hot tub that we use in the winter when it's raining, when there's plenty of water to be used. That's one of the reasons we want to get that hillside terrace done so we could use it in the winter. And Taku's been doing a ton of research on how to build a hillside terrace. It seems pretty intimidating because you really don't want to mess up the retaining walls. Yeah, that's something we've been researching a lot. That's something we kind of like, should we hire someone? Is it something we could do ourselves? I mean, there's quite a few videos out there that seem to say you could definitely do it yourself. So I don't know. We're still working on, the research on that, so we'll see how it goes. That's really the two big projects that we want to hopefully be able to accomplish this year. Fingers crossed. I don't know. They're pretty big projects, so we'll see if it happens. And they just require so much research to make sure we're doing everything correctly. And of course, we want to finish the she shed. We should be able to do that by the next month, hopefully. It has been a crazy ride of going from, living in a tiny little room in San Francisco to living in a van to traveling the world to owning our own house. It's been really exciting, and I'm really happy that you guys find us interesting enough to follow us along. But yeah, I think that's everything. Thank you guys so much for watching. So glad to have you guys here, and we will catch you next week.